I'm proud of myself. Um, History and politics. It is 9 o'clock. It is Monday, and we are live on YouTube. Again, my appeal to my MAGA friends, or hope to be MAGA friends one day, please reach out. I love your comments. I love your input. I want to understand this mindset or ideology is definitely historic. Um, Everybody is talking about the first 100 days of President Trump. And I really intended on coming on as I did yesterday and say, before you get so caught up in what Trump has done, what have you done as a person for your country? If you care so much about what the president's doing, what do you do? And that was really my goal, was to shift the onus back on each one of us as Americans to be our best selves, because it's not just the president that affects the country, we do. And as I was going through my notes, I checked the internet, and MAGA has not failed us. Can you believe that Columbus Day is what they're talking about now? You've tanked the economy. You sent very few people out of the country, and of the few people you sent, one of them was the wrong person, that one of them that we know of. You are attacking inclusive history, or anyone else's history that makes white people feel bad. You are trying to push a tariff ideology that historically does not work. And now we're talking about Columbus Day. Now, this is embarrassing. We are talking about Columbus Day when when people can't afford to buy food, when people can't pay their rent, when people can't afford schooling, people can't pay daycare. Not that they don't have jobs. Everything costs so much that we can't do it. And we're talking about Columbus Day? Now let's really talk about how idiotic this is. Number one, the president would say it. And number two, people would listen. Because again, Donald Trump is doing what he's supposed to do. Donald Trump is doing what he always has done. He's holding something shiny up to catch people's attention, and he's doing something else over here. Classic American politics. That's what he's supposed to do, so I'm not mad at him. I am mad at the stupidity of the American people. Anyone who knows history knows Columbus was never a marine genius. He had 3 ships: Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria. The Nina was the navigation ship. That ship was owned by the Niños brothers. Those were black people that led the ships to North America. He was taken here by black people because the Moors had lost the war to Spain in 1492, and the Moors had been coming to the Western Hemisphere for centuries, as far as they knew. Africans had been at least documented since Mansa Musa, 500 years before No, I think it was 150 years before Columbus. And Leif Erikson was the first European to be here. So, not to mention the fact Columbus never made it to North America, never set foot on North America. So, this is an example of the kind of history um, that is supposed to be replacing our current representation of facts. That Trump is saying he's going to reinstate it because it's being overshadowed with Native American days and it's not a day off anymore and he's going to bring it back. Why? One thing that we celebrate in this country is the alleged abolishing of slavery in 1865. Columbus, if we could, just like we can narrow down the formation of the country to Pocahontas, we can narrow down Western slavery to Christopher Columbus. That's the guy you want to celebrate. That's Columbus is Maga's guy. The guy who began slavery in the Western Hemisphere, brought here by black people, given credit, which is not his fault, given credit for discovering a country that he never even set foot on the continent, and was indeed responsible for the death of 7 million Tainos people that he sold into slavery upon getting here, was arrested for his violent acts toward indigenous people by Spaniards and was removed as governor because he was violent and a poor representation of the crown by the standards of Europeans. That's the guy. Maga, help me understand this. Eggs are $20 a piece. And this is the guy we're holding space for. This is what's going to pull us back toward an approval rating for Donald Trump. And again, I have to keep saying, I don't think that the Democrats would have done any better. I don't think they would have done it the same way. But they wouldn't have done any better. But even this is how sad it is, how poor representation this is for the American people. Donald Trump's approval rate is in the mid 40s. So that means half of the people are going, yeah, give us more. Half of the population is like, yeah, keep it coming. And they're saying that like 40 something is bad. But every swing he has taken, getting rid of immigrants, he's only gotten rid of like 50. It's not like he's shipping them out. It's not like he's like doing something. When they sent the wrong guy, there was only 17 people that they sent out. It's not like he's saving jobs. I really don't think he means this stuff that he's saying. I think he gets the poor, hateful, white, racist groups amped up so they can distract television and they make the big money deals behind the scenes. Who else would go for Columbus Day? And I did read somewhere, and I have to check this. I believe, though he is Italian, I believe I remember reading somewhere that You know what? I'm not going to touch it because I don't want to give anything where anyone can say a fact that I gave was not double checked. So before I say something and say I'm gonna double check it, I will double check it and then I will say it. But what kind of American people would give any focus at this point? We're contemplating or negotiating sending first American citizens to El Salvadorian prisons. Then we began trying to send immigrants. And within 2 months, Maga can't do that right, shoots himself in the foot, sends the wrong person. Now, that's only one person that we know of. After everyone said the tariffs are not going to work, including the person running against the president. She's like, that's not going to work. All the experts have looked at it. Tariffs have always messed that up. Ronald Reagan, a video saying tariffs don't work. Don't do that. You did it anyway. You've crapped the bed on that. Now you're going after American history. It's like let's put forth these reverse racism ideologies to satisfy this hateful mass of poor whites. I ask, does anybody find it funny that white people only see reverse racism? And even by their own definition, reverse racism means white people do it first. So for something to be reversed, that means we did it, but they never see the time that they did it. During Reconstruction, whites said, not before Reconstruction, antebellum. They said, no, it's no need to free the slaves. The slaves are happy. Look at it. That's pretty much what they were describing in the Lost Cause doctrine. Look that up, is where the South reimagined the history of the Civil War. They said, no, blacks are happy. Look at them. They're whistling, they're singing, they're getting married, they're having kids. If they weren't happy, why would they do that? And then 20 years later, during the Civil War, they said, look, they're fighting for the country. Of course they're happy. And then in Reconstruction, they said, look, they're free. Of course they're happy. And then during the Civil Rights era, of course they're happy. They got more rights than they ever had. And then after the Civil Rights, oh, well, you're equal. Now, the people during the Civil Rights today would never say black people were being treated fairly during antebellum. But they said it during antebellum. And during the civil rights period, they never would have said that black people were treated right during slavery. Well, most of them probably would have thought it, but they wouldn't have said it out loud. But the point is, white people have always gotten it wrong about themselves in history and how they affect other people. So why do you think you have it right now? Why can't you see your horrid racism into your grandparents, into your parents, but you could see the possible advantage of someone else, and that's racism? You don't want to hear about other people's history. The Black Smithsonian, which is American history. It's some American history you don't want to hear about. If it deals with black people, you don't want to hear about that history. But let's talk about Christopher Columbus. All right. What does that serve? There are intelligent, well-educated people around the president. This has to be being done with some intellect, some strategy. I refuse to believe that these are just hateful, dumb white people that are insecure in their position and attack at every challenge. That, that's not consistent with American history. American white people have very thick skin. And as a group, I'm not talking about each and every white person. We're not talking about that. But as a group, they're very cagey. They're very crafty historically. This is not arbitrary. The white power structure does not have a history of being arbitrary. There's something missing. There's something we're not getting. And we as the American people have to be aware when something is afoot. When something doesn't pass the smell test, the American people should be talking. And again, I ask, where are all of these non-racist white people? Where are they? All of these people that claim we're in a post-racial society, all of these white people that don't see color, all of these white people that support equality and equal rights. Where are they? Why are we talking about Christopher Columbus? And what does that have to do? Is this good American history? The man that we know did not discover America. And he didn't even discover the Western Hemisphere. The first thing he says in his notes, in his journal, is, I see black people on the shore. He didn't say people. He didn't say red people. He didn't say yellow people. He said black people. We know Malians had been here a century before him. And it makes sense that Africans would have been here a long time ago. Black Africans have had full dynasties before Europeans. Africans developed Europe. The Moors controlled Europe from 700 AD to 1492. 800 years, Africans developed what we know as Europe. Those old paintings of dukes and earls and royalty, those are black people. Look it up. So the existence, the formed civilizations, everybody came to Africa to be educated. Aristotle, Socrates, Alexander of Macedon, all of these people came to Africa because it had been developed for so long. They said when Sumeria disappeared, it reemerged in Africa, in Egypt in particular. But that entire continent had dynasties before any European history. So we know, because we get hurricanes every year, that the natural currents go down Western Africa and up into the Western Hemisphere. So you're going to tell me through dynasties, nobody just happened to be sitting in a boat and noticed that they got taken that way. A very large percentage of the Cherokee, Seminole, Maga, and a few other Native American tribes are African. It wasn't because the slaves interacted with them. They were here before um, the Columbian Exchange. I find this is either a distraction or something that there's more to. But I honestly think this has to be a distraction. This makes little, if any, sense. I hate to believe that the intelligence of the United States is at this level. It's too many high level things, too many strategic things that go on at a high level in this country that this is where we are. Christopher Columbus in 2025, he's not the first European to be here. He never got here. He really has nothing to do with United States. Now, if you want to talk about Haiti or any of the Caribbean islands, maybe. It's a lot like Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln didn't free any slaves. Abraham Lincoln kept the Union together. That's why he should be famous. Christopher Columbus did not discover America. He discovered the Western Hemisphere for Europeans. They didn't know what was over here. Obviously, the Moors did. The black guys who were on the navigation ship of his 3 ships, the Ninos brothers, knew what was over here. And all the people who were over here knew what was over here. Why is the President of the United States? Why is that a presidential issue? Christopher Columbus? Everyone learns in 8th grade that he didn't discover anything. This is what we're talking about when people can't pay their rent in the United States. We're talking about Christopher Columbus when the economy is tanked. We're talking about Christopher Columbus when we're shipping out Mexican people because we don't want their population to exceed white population in 50 years. And I don't want anybody to miss that. Notice, no one was talking about the southern border in the 80s. They weren't talking about the southern border in the 90s. They weren't talking about the southern border in the first 10 years of 2000. It wasn't until about 15 years ago when they made that projection that if the population growth maintains the way it is, there are going to be more people of Mexican descent than it is white people in 50 or 60 or 70 years. That was when suddenly, we want to protect your jobs. Suddenly they're raping. Suddenly they're in cartels. Suddenly they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're getting Social Security, and all of the stuff that had been going on since time immemorial didn't matter. At the point it became where a voting base could outnumber whites, suddenly we're only worried about one border. We're not worried about the northern border. That's the same thing that happened with the Civil War. When the South saw they could not make laws to favor them, they wanted to leave. So this white power structure is fighting for control of the political outcomes in this country. So let's get these Mexican people out of here. That's why that started. Think about it. Those of you who are over 30 years old, when did they start talking about that? How long has that border been there? When did the Mexican American War end? Now it's a problem. Throughout the whole 20th century, it was not a problem. The 20th century, the Mexican border was not a problem. I'm going to say it again. The 20th century, it wasn't until the projections of Mexican population outnumbering whites in the future that they started doing that. Now that goes back to the Haitian Revolution, when they brought in so many people, so many black people for labor, and they ended up being outnumbered. And Jean-Jacques Dessalines in Toussaint Overture aligned all the Africans, and they ended up winning their country. So as much as I wanted to come on today and do a different history and politics and turn the tables on the American people, instead of complaining about Trump, what are you doing? What are you doing for your family? What are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your state? What are you doing for your nation? What are you doing for your lodge? What are you doing for your organization? What are you doing your first 100 days instead of talking about the president? They got me with this, with Christopher Columbus. That's what we're doing now. So please, my MAGA people, I need you to reach out. I need you to explain it to me. This is not a good look. And there is nothing about MAGA that's looking intelligent. And I know just by how accomplished some of these people are, there has to be some intelligent root in it somewhere. So please represent it. Help me understand. Because this just looks like ignorant bigotry. The group that is calling for a reform of history is bringing back a national holiday in a country for a person who never was in the country. So, 100 Days of Trump. That's the best I got. So please like, share, subscribe. Check out the other videos. Also, check out Bolt on Car Restoration. If you're into old cars, check out Bolt on Car Restoration. Like the videos, share, subscribe. We will get on tomorrow, and hopefully I will not be talking about Christopher Columbus.